I do want to get into like this progressive civil war, and we have one of, I guess, the colonels or generals of the civil war with us tonight, and that is Anoa. So please, can you tell me what the fuck is going on and why I should care? Because y'all people are blowing up my timeline, all of you.
Mine too. All day.
All day.
I just got back.
Let's just be honest. If I didn't have to G-check people on a regular basis on Twitter because people with their large ass platforms want to be like, don't come at me, don't be coming for me. No, please. Like people act like I'm scared of them. Like, do you know where I'm from? Like,
what is happening? What is happening?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you can call me, wannabe sister soldier, whatever the hell else.
What is happening?
Comments you people have. I don't give a fuck. What is happening? So, what is happening is a lot of folks are Johnny come lately to the fact that myself, Karen, Beth, Katie, Wendy, the whole crew, our Lefties Lady crew, most of us are women of color, had some ongoing conversation almost 2 weeks now. I think some other folks, Kieran and Brittany and other folks might have been posting about this before, but Caitlin Johnstone has, written, I guess now at this point, 4 pieces in this line of increasingly incoherent mumbo jumbo. But the first 2 pieces, and folks can disagree or agree or whatever the case may be. I really don't care at this point who wants to debate the merits of her arguments, because she herself does not have the wherewithal to debate the merits of her arguments, right? She's a coward. So what happened was, there was a thread with like Katie and Beth and, several folks who are affiliated with Progressive Army. Actually, folks don't know this. I'm not affiliated with Progressive Army anymore. I love everybody very dearly, but I'm not. If you've noticed, I haven't been on Ben's channel. Actually, this is the first time I've been on Ben's channel, probably in about 2 or 3 months. And it is what it is. But everything's all good. Love all to the fam. But so this whole notion has been that supposedly Progressive Army were a bunch of Soros paid shills who are, for Hillary Clinton and the DNC, were trying to get people back into being Democrats and were undermining real progressives doing real work. Total horseshit. And it's all started from critique of Katie Johnstone's, she had 2 articles. One was about, lefties need to something with anti-establishment right. She uses these really euphemistic phrases, right? And it's playing semantics. Well, I didn't say the alt-right. No, you said alt-light. You said a bunch of other things. I mean, come on. The people you're using, we know what the hell you mean. The second piece, she's like, I further clarifying. So what happened was, we were having a conversation in a Twitter thread. It's public. People can come in and out of mentions as they please, whatever. We could have been having it in a DM if we wanted nobody to be involved. But so we were sharing our opinions and thoughts. Some folks were less kind about it than others. I mean, it is what it is. It's Twitter. So she comes into our mentions. We were mutual follows. Like, I really have never read any of her stuff. We were mutual follows. Folks, I generally follow a lot of people back. So we were mutual follows or whatever. And so she's like, well, here's my article that explains more detail. I was like, yeah, hun, I already read your articles. I read both of them. So now that you're here in our mentions, you can answer some questions just like that. So I asked a bunch of questions. And she insisted that I was trying to destroy her with mischaracterizations, and this was pure violence and all other hysterical Hillary bot
Were you
type
taking her out of
BS.
Context? That's my favorite. Like, when someone told me I'm taking
No. Like, I literally asked questions. Like, one of my questions was, because the second piece, there were 2 pieces initially. The second piece was a clarification. It was about how we can join up to take down, corporate media. Right. And so my question was, how do we align? One of the several questions I asked was, how do we align with propagandists and those who manipulate information to take down a system that propagandizes and manipulates information? Like, because for me personally, logically, that doesn't really make sense. Because if we're really, against propaganda, we're really against misinforming people, we're really against manipulating with lies and alternative facts. If these are things that we're really dead set against, why in the hell would we work with people who do the same exact thing, who have really large platforms and reaches of their own, and who are actually responsible for a lot of the really bad ideas and concepts that people on the ground have that lead to some of the voting behavior that actually undermines their condition? So why the hell will we feed into that and support them, even if it's just so far as, well, we both agree that CNN is bad? okay, we all can agree that something is wrong, but that doesn't mean that our motives, doesn't mean that our agenda or our ultimate goals are actually the same thing. And so for me personally, as someone who does engage in activism, organizing, really trying to build with people, particularly the people they claim they want to reach, this is not helpful. Like, why would we do things that actually undermine someone's condition and their ability to get access to the resources, information that can lift them up? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm also not driven by clicks. I also am not driven by patrons. I have a meager little Patreon account that covers like subscriptions and stuff, but I'm also not really focused on, oh my God, I might lose people and I might not be able to pay my bills if I don't say some more outrageous and egregious shit. So I can say what I mean and mean what I say, and I stand by everything. I don't care who threatens with screenshots and whatever. I mean, I mean it. I'll give you the screenshots. I'll give you the DMs. Like, I don't care. So this snowballed, right? So she immediately, so it's literally it's about 18 minutes from on July 15th, because I've had to share the screenshots with folks so many times because everyone's like, oh my God, you guys are being bullies. You're piling up on her. This is what I don't understand about bullies, right? And this is what I don't understand about people who came out of the Bernie Sanders stuff, progressive folks, and what's happening right now. Like, because this is literally insanity. And this is literally what Hillbots did to us for a long time, right? Blah, blah, blah. You know, Hillary's so great. Da, 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 da. Bernie people, well, there's this fact, here's this receipt, here's this sheet. Oh my God, you're sexist, that's violent, what's wrong with you? Oh my God, block. This is literally what's happening. If you produce counterpoints, if you produce criticism, if you ask questions, that's not violence. And when someone says that's violence, when you say that to a Black woman, you're telling a Black woman that expressing herself and discussing a topic is violence. And then somehow, then you go on platforms, like whether you're on with David Cobb and the Green News Network, who David, even though I was annoyed with the interview that she did, because people are not involved on Twitter, they don't understand the context of what's going on. So then you allow someone like Caitlyn to go on, whether it's H.A. Goodman and Tim Black defending her, or whatever the case may be. You have all these people who only know what she is saying and writing and not understanding the context of actually what happened. Because now it's this whole big colossal conspiracy that Progressive Army is trash and we try to take her down. And really, we're a group of people, and I'll say we're because I still, love and am affiliated with folks who believe in critical thinking. We often don't agree. I mean, I swear to God, if I could show folks the old shout out to Niz and Kelly who just had a baby, but if I could show them some of the screenshots from me and Niz going at it, I'm probably the reason why Niz left Progressive Army. Let's just be real. I'm probably the reason why he left y'all hanging.
Show them the screenshots of our first conversation.
Oh my God, John and I, like John and I, right? Like, so people, when they're passionate about issues, we're going to debate, we're going to argue, but that doesn't mean someone's trying to destroy you. What becomes destructive then, though, is the misinformation and misrepresentation of an initial conflict. Conflict is not bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to work through struggle and uncomfortable situations to get to a better place. So people are like, well, we have to be able to reach Trump voters. Okay, let's talk about that. Because if we really want to reach people and we want to uplift them, because we believe that the way Republicans have done things in misconstruing facts, of misleading people and undermining their existing condition and impressing people, why would we go to an even worse version of that type of propaganda machine for help in doing anything? That's like literally going to the local mob boss for a loan and having to pay a ridiculous amount of interest on the back end because you needed a quick fix right now. So
the biggest argument I've seen, and the best one that I've seen against it, is exactly what happened this week, which was, the alt center has used it as a weaponized form of argument against anyone on the left. Like throughout the entire primary, all we kept hearing was Bernie Sanders supporters are sexist, they're racist, they're horrible people, they are Trump supporters in costume, and we can't ally with these people. And then all of a sudden, you have the only piece of fact that I've ever seen any of these people put forth, which is someone on the left who's making the argument to join up with the alt-right and join up with Cernovich. And it's like that right there weaponized the entire narrative of Bernie Bro, which we had put to bed, and they brought it back.
I mean, I agree with that, especially because here's the thing, though. Like, here's what we're seeing. We're seeing this idea that if you don't agree with everything that I say, you can't be my friend, right? We're seeing, especially, at least the views that I've got on Twitter, the way I've been seeing it is it's been the white left. this white American left is coming out and saying, hey, we have to work with the alt-right. And so when you do these things, and you're basically saying, I'm willing to trade the safety and well-being of people of color, of LGBTQIA plus folks, of undocumented folks, of other marginalized groups. Like, that's what you're saying. You're saying, because this isn't a one-time thing. This is how you go down that path to alt-rightism. And there's folks I could call out right now on the show. I won't do that. I might do it on Twitter, though, because I'm really, at this point, I'm kind of overseeing a lot of this shit from these people.
I'm tired of all
Huh? They're coming out here, like, they're coming through this, and they're going and they're marching further and further and further to this alt-rightism. You cannot scapegoat the very people that we talk about helping. Those of us on the left, when we and I say the people we talk about helping, when I mean these marginalized groups, these marginalized folks, throw all of that work under the bus because you want to get a 5 minutes of shine, because you don't like CNN. Like, so as far as I'm concerned, these people that are making this argument, they do it because the alt-right is their natural ally. These white leftists, their closest friend is that alt-right. Their closest ally is that Richard Spencer, because they have the same kind of views in saying,
no,
like
misunderstand. No, not Richard Spencer.
So here's the thing.
Spencer.
I don't understand. Here's why I disagree with you a little bit.
And I disagree with Adair a little bit too. Not much, but a little bit.
And it's like, it's not that they have the same, like, people aren't that different, like, their personality traits so much as they are in terms of, like, their, and it's like, and oftentimes you have people, like, you know, people complain, there is a certain segment of the population who just, like, hates Hillary Clinton, and they mask it with actual factual, like, arguments, like, oh, well, she did actually the wise, but they just hate her for whatever reason. And this whole problem to me has, you know, began like this, like, because this has been clogging at my feed, like this internal schism on, like, Twitter left have been clogging my feed for months now. And it all started with the DNC fraud lawsuit, and which
I have all that muted.
Which began as a relatively important, or, you know, at least interesting analysis of, well, hey, the DNC did this thing. We have evidence of it, and if nothing else, they should suffer the social cost, and, like, in terms of their image, of having to say, you know, we don't have to have a fair election, in the sense that it doesn't have to be, you know, entirely impartial on our part. And that, like, to me, that was a good thing, right? You know, like, if you think it's a private club and they can do that, they should have to wear that around their neck. I think anyone who says, like, oh, well, it's not important because everyone should know that, and they shouldn't have to say it, is being a piece of shit and a liar, because, like, they should have to say it. They should have to put it on the front door. This is not impartial. We will do what we want. Like, I think that's an important thing. And anyone who doesn't feel that way is, you know, kowtowing to power, and they don't want to, you know, they don't want the party to suffer in the end of the day. And that spiraled into the set the rich stuff, and that spiraled somehow into Pizzagate, and now we're here, and it's just like all this says to me that the leftist does have its own set of grifters that are simply interested in getting attention, and that right there, the act of getting attention is their defining character trait.
But here's the thing, though.
That's why I disagree with Richard. Like, oh, like, they're just like Richard Spencer. Like, they are.
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. I didn't say they're just like Richard Spencer. I said their natural ally is the Richard Spencer.
Okay, so here's why, and I guess I'll clarify your point, or I'll say how I interpret that to mean. Like, their natural ally, Richard Spencer, or maybe not Richard Spencer, because I don't know Richard Spencer's internal monologue, but their natural ally are people like, say, Sargon of Akkad, or like Dave Rubin, and that, like, they're natural allies because their sole goal is getting attention and getting more PR for themselves. And yeah, they might believe in Black Lives Matter, they might believe in Standing Rock, they might believe that the corporate media is a problem, but that all comes secondary to getting themselves attention. Like, you know, Standing Rock, you know, having attention is not as important as themselves at Standing Rock getting attention. And this comes down to, like, this particular personality trait of, like, hey, you know, their work is defined as increasing increasing their own platform, and they're jealous of the alt-right. They're jealous of the alt-right. They're jealous of the alt-right, and they're jealous of the large platform that they have, and they want that large platform. And maybe they can gussy it up to themselves and say, "Oh, I want that large platform so I can bring more attention to these issues that don't get enough attention." But really, the key aspect that you should never, like, they just want that platform, and they will do anything. They will align with anybody to get that platform. And a lot of that is because they see, they see Mike Cernovich, they see Cassandra Fairbanks, they see them at the White House, they see Richard Spencer on CNN, and they want that. And they never stop to think to themselves, well, maybe these people are at these places because they're not anti-establishment.
Yeah.
It's like maybe Richard Spencer's on CNN because despite what, people want you to believe about, like, the alt-right or whatever, little subsection or subpopulation of far right he falls into, I don't really give a shit about that. I think that's a lot of nuances, like, maybe unimportant when it comes to Richard Spencer. Like, when you talk about Trump voters, I think that is important. We'll get to that in a second. But, like, they see that and they don't consider the possibility that they're not anti-establishment. What they are is the establishment taken to its extreme. And that, my friend, is why they get platforms.
Well, the notion of being anti-establishment. Let's just talk about this, right? It's more like being. It's really it's a cute turn of phrase. Again, this gets back to my point, which was my sole point about this, about people who manipulate facts, manipulate terminology. They're grifters, right? They're ideological grifters, and they're not really anti-establishment. They might be anti this iteration of establishment, but they themselves are not anti-establishment, because if there's a void, you think these people are not going to fill that establishment void with their own bullshit. No, like, so there isn't the same ethos. And I just had someone message me saying, well, most people who are labeled alt-right are really just Ron Paul types. No, those are libertarians. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Most libertarians are not who people are calling the alt-right. The alt-right is or the alt-light, or whatever the hell the euphemistic term people want to use. It's a very specific, wing that we have seen in the political sphere. It's been on the fringe, and it gained more steam and more central notice and location during this presidential election cycle. Folks were not mad about the media when they was getting all the good coverage, when news outlets were misreporting, people's violence when it was really them. They weren't really, concerned when they were getting to be front and center, when they go on, roundtable discussions unchecked without anything at all. So all of this now is only because they don't like the news coverage of Donald Trump or their positions and stuff like that. And let's talk about being anti-establishment. How in the hell are you anti-establishment and you running citizens for Trump? Jack,
what's his name? I mean,
like, because that's many other people. But like, there's a real serious issue. I think we got to call it what it is.
So let me just jump in here for
one point.
Hold on, Brandon. You talk a lot.
One point is that we talk about anti-establishment, and you see how many publications and how many news organizations put Richard Spencer on their column space, and how many
was it Mother Jones that was talking about how cute or whatever the hell that one article was? I mean, the coverage.
Mother Jones started it,
right? But how many of those same organizations have put the new leaders of the DSA up there? They haven't. When you're talking about socialism, they did that. The Washington Post hires Brett Stevens, and they hired, New York Times hired Brett Stevens, a climate denier and a right establishment.
Islamophobe.
Yeah, exactly. And yet, you don't see any of the socialists being given this type of airtime. You don't see any of the socialists being given any of this. You want to talk about anti-establishment? That's the anti-establishment. The white nationalists fuel a level of establishment that is in existence and that our entire society was predicated on. And, we're trying to change that and shift that. And that's why they're still given airtime, because they're hearkening back to a time where it has had more power, and they themselves want to hearken back to that time. And that's what this whole Kekistan and white national movement is all about. I mean, you looked at Prison Planet just got owned online from a British historian talking about, how London, based on the Roman Empire, was actually a multicultural place, more so than most other European places. And
Prison Planet is a globe cuck with the reddest lips I've ever fucking seen in my entire life. Yes. It's like I've never seen someone prison. I don't know what his real name is. Like, I think it's Joseph Paul Watson. like Joseph Paul Watson. That motherfucker looks like he drank the entire Kool-Aid, man. His lips are so goddamn red. And
why are you so stupid?
But every time I see him in pictures, like he has like the reddest lips. It's really weird, but like not like lipstick, but like that he had something that he was like eating a red icy.
It makes
like
me
he's
think
got
of
the fridge full of red icy.
It makes me think of the Mentats from Dune, except for the fact that he's dumb as fuck.
but you don't have to be smart.
He's a twisted. He can be a twisted man. No, you're right. They were still really smart either way.
But you don't have to. But you don't have to be. You don't have to be smart or have a deep, engaged understanding of history to appeal to these people. And this is, this comes down to what you were like largely saying, right? This is why horseshoe theory is bullshit, and like unless it's in the most superficial, dumbass ways, right? But did you want to get in here, Adair, before I say what I'm going to say?
Yeah. So basically, what we're talking about, because I agree with you, right? They are the establishment, period. But that's also part of why I say that they are the natural allies of the alt-right, because the whole movement of this alt-right is based on strengthening the state. B, it's based on this idea of getting attention. It's based on this idea of I need this platform, and the reasons for having that platform are different, right? So the Richard Spencer of the world feel he deserves a platform simply because he's white. Mm-hmm. These people may believe they deserve a platform simply because they are who they are. But that shared ideation of I need to have a platform, you must give me a chance to speak, is part of why I feel they are natural allies. Also because the establishment, as has already been stated so eloquently by everybody else on this panel, is inherently white supremacist. These people aren't against the establishment. They're against whoever won't give them a voice. And so the establishment gives them that voice. The fact of the matter is these people that were born in the United States, were raised in the United States, have white supremacist ideals because that is the kind of country we live in. So just based on that, they are naturally aligned with these folks on the right. I think it's ridiculous. I think you're right, Anoa. I think they are ideological drifters, but we have to also look at the culture in which people are raised. And when you're raised in this culture, and again, I'm seeing this from my view, from what I'm getting in my Twitter feed, from what I'm getting in my mentions, is coming from white leftists. And they are defending not only working with the alt-right, but actually the alt-right in and of itself as an ideology and a movement. Why I say these folks are naturally aligned with them. It's just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse because you're going to start seeing a lot of these bigger names move over to that side because it's a snowball effect. They're going for the biggest audience. They're going for the biggest splash they can get. They want to find a way to monetize this, and the best thing to monetize is whiteness. That's just how this country works.
Here is like, I think it's worthwhile because horseshoe theory comes up so often in amongst the center. It's their favorite little pet theory that the far right and far left are exactly the same. And I think, and it's stupid. It's fucking dumb. Right. But I think understanding why it's dumb is important, and understanding why it might, if you're operating it in good faith, it might seem like it makes sense, right? So I do agree that perhaps like the best, like the left versus right dichotomy as it exists on the political spectrum is useless at today, right? It's not as useful as it maybe once used to be. Maybe it was never really useful. A better dichotomy to understand the world in, or rather American politics in right now, or maybe just generally Western politics, is. Did you guys say something, Anoa, or?
I was going to say, just looking at the news, they're voting on the healthcare bill. The GOP just voted in 2 hours. So they're having a midnight vote.
Yeah, of course. 3 a.m.
Yeah, of course they are, because they're pieces of shit too. But what I was going to say, we'll be at this for a long time, so we can address that in a few minutes. But so there are different flavors of anti-establishment, right? Insofar that the far right is not anti-establishment. It's not anti the foundational ideology or aspects or bigotry or oppression or material conditions of society. It's anti-establishment in a very, very specific, shallow way, which is like it's anti very mainstream institutions. It's not a counter culture so much as it is a counter specific incarnations of that culture. It doesn't like CNN, because CNN is they're race cucks or whatever. It's not a coherent critique of material conditions or the social conditions of society or the history of how we got here. The same way the far left is. It's just grievance politics in its most petty level. And so people on the far left, which are now, or people who proclaim to be on the far left, and maybe they are on the far left ideologically, maybe they believe in that stuff ideologically, but attention is their most motivating factor, are giving credence to this idea of horseshoe theory because they see in the far right A, the ability to get more attention, and B, a similar grievance with the mainstream media for not giving them the kind of attention that they want.
And I think that grievance actually is kind of important because for so many of us, especially those of us on the left, like we were talking about earlier today, Brandon, and especially with the Democratic Party, we've been told that our grievance is non-existent. We've been told that the country is good enough already. So many people have had their grievances ignored that now anybody that pays attention to that is given like, well, this guy could be an ally. It's like,
absolutely.
Well, no, they're paying attention to your grievance for a very specific purpose, and that's to co-opt your movement and co-opt your energy into putting it to something that won't benefit you.
Well, I just wanted to say quickly that not the co-opting part, but by anyone speaking to your grievance, I think Bernie Sanders picked up some of the alt-right, some of the far-right, some folks that could recognize Trump for the con man that he was and realized that Bernie was their only alternative. And like, while they disagreed with him a lot, they had the perspective of, well, while I disagree with him on these things that I find fundamental, we both don't like CNN or we both don't like Congress or whatever. And so rather than the con man Trump, I'm going to go this way, even though they were alt-right. And so you see some of that, those people that were left out of that, the evolution of Bernie, that move towards Trump or towards this alt-right, towards the Richard Spencers, towards that group of people.
And you can see that with a lot of people quoting Rand Paul and saying, hey, Rand Paul is against money in politics. And it's like, well, yeah, Rand Paul is against money in politics and he thinks money is a corrupting evil. But at the same time, his solution is radical transparency and no limits on any money in politics. Like, that's not a solution that will work for anybody. And that's not a solution that anyone should be pushing. What you can work with Rand Paul on is you can work with Rand Paul on specific policies, and you can work with Rand Paul and the libertarians on specific policies as long as you're vigilant on how those policies are shaped. But you cannot go into it thinking like, we're going to work together, we're going to create a coalition, we're going to create an allyship to get money out of politics without recognizing the fact that his end goal isn't necessarily money out of politics. It's all free market.
But see,
that is a brilliant example and breakdown, John, because that is exactly what people need to be looking at. You need to look at what is the end goal. What do people mean when they say, people just say, oh, we're saying the same thing. No. What does it mean? Like,
we're not even saying the same thing though.
No, not you. No, I'm not saying that you all are saying the same thing. I said people say that though, right?
Exactly.
We can all work together because we're saying the same thing. But they'll take some really simplistic sentence like, we're all anti-war. No, actually, we're not really all anti-war, and I don't really know that you actually understand what being anti-war really actually means. Because being anti-war, because you don't want to be in Syria, you don't want the U.S. to be in Syria, for example, is not quite being completely and totally, anti-U.S. militarism and imperialism and a bunch of other things too that actually go into what the U.S. war machine really is all about. But I really thought that was a really great illustrative point, John, about how, what seems to be to a novice person not really digging in deep, the same exact thing. Once you really start looking under the surface, it's not. And people need to be clear about what they're signing up for.
But I mean,
and that anti-war one is a really good example because the anti-war one is very interesting because they're, like you said, the alt-right is on the surface anti-war, but what they really want is they want a closed border and they want to basically bomb the shit out of everybody else. That's not anti-war. Now, can we work with people? Let's say there are congressmen who are alt-right, and I don't know of any that are wielding the levers of power. But can we work with them to pass a bill like Tulsi Gabbard's bill to stop arming terrorists in Syria? Yes, we can, but we have to understand that they're going to try and slip something into that bill that would make it not something we would support, and that's what we have to fight. So yeah, you can say, look, will you vote for this as it stands, and pressure them to vote for it as it stands. And that's the pragmatism that Brandon was talking about earlier, where there has to be a pragmatic approach, but you have to go into it with eyes wide open. You can't think of these people as allies. You can think of them as potential support in a limited fashion.
Yeah, like when we talk about, you have to be careful about who we talk about, because I don't feel that that's actual tactic we can use the alt-right. I feel you can do that with libertarians. A good example of that is I have a friend who identifies as a libertarian. She and I agree on a lot of these social issues. She and I agree on things like decriminalizing drugs, on things, you know, those gay marriage needs to be acceptable. Same-sex marriage, rather, is something that needs to be, you know, done. We agree on a lot of social issues. Like, we don't agree on a lot of economic policy. Like, really, we don't agree on any economic policy, and we don't really agree on any foreign policy. So those are things that you have to be like, okay, can I work with this person because they agree with exactly what I'm saying? I can work with occasionally I can work with a libertarian. Occasionally I can work with one of them because they believe in the same thing.
And there's also occasional ground you can give with the libertarian that you can't give with the alt-right.
Exactly, and that's my point, is that we have to start taking that into account. With some folks, there are things we legitimately agree on. We have some of the same end goals. With the alt-right, we don't have any of the same end goals. Because our end goal in getting rid of things like CNN is to have actual fair and unbiased media. We're going to try to get media in there that has nuance, that actually does its goddamn job. What the alt-right wants to do is install a propaganda outfit. That's all that they want. So we're fundamentally different from the jump.
Right. We want a collectively owned media company, and they want Breitbart.
They want Breitbart. They have Breitbart, but like what they want, but they want that to entirely supplant. They want that to entirely supplant CNN. And so I have a few points to make. Like John makes a great point, right? Like, you know, I thought we were supposed to be moving. The people who love Bernie, who profess to love Bernie, I thought we were supposed to be moving towards a more proactive, hope-based, version of politics, right? One that sought to, do what we were talking about in the first half of the show, which was install institutions and agencies that gave the future and gave most marginalized people, the future of the most marginalized people, and really everybody, more tangible, manageable qualities. I didn't think that we were supposed to be finding who has the most basic, shallow, reactive policy positions that we also superficially share and teaming up with them to, question mark utopia. Because that's what it seems to be, right? It's a version of, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And when Bernie Sanders did that, these people threw him out whole cloth. Like now Bernie's working with the Democrats. It's like, well, I guess he's evil now. It's like, okay, so like a drop of Democrat money.
I really do actually blame his campaign strategists and the way they did not deal with the growing grassroots movement and the clear, apathy that was coming down the pipeline. Like quite honestly, like the backlash that is happening right now and the sheer chaos that we have seen post primary, really, right? Post convention, post the DNC, exactly. What we've seen the past year, right? The sheer chaos, the real, the deeper, intense anti-establishment mentality, the really hateful attitude. Because coming out of the DNC, even like during the DNC, coming out of the DNC, the way Jeff Weaver in particular handled things, it really turned people hard. It really, the way Hillary's campaign and the DNC handled Bernie, right? Bernie delegates. When that happened, and then all of us watched it happen, it really, really broke people. Right. And I don't really think that the proper work and the actual value and investment on what this movement really was, I don't think neither he nor any of his campaign, generals, operatives or whatever, really understood that or really appreciated that we were more than just a $27, machine that to brag about, or folks to show up at a town hall or a barnstorm or a phone bank. Like people really believe, people, this is it's like being John Malkovich, like everyone was inside of it. They really became Bernie and thought that was them. So when it's an existential crisis that happens to the movement, and when you see basically like our father, our granddad, the leader, then saying, well, deuces, who cares how y'all got beat down and all this other stuff. Like that part, no, seriously though. Like seriously, this is the psychosis. This is the psychosis. I see that, but here's the issue with that. No.
I agree with that. But here's the issue, right? That's exactly but that's exactly what people accuse the Clinton supporters of doing, right? Of completely supplanting their ego with Clinton and ignoring all of the pragmatic.
This is what I'm saying. It's invasion of the body snatchers, because Bernie supporters and Clinton supporters are very similar.
And that was my
in that respect.
That was my initial point, right? Like we're supposed to be moving to a better version. we'll be moving to a better version of politics that didn't do that. That was focused on practical solutions and not, not making celebrities of our politicians. But it's very clear that they did that. Go ahead. Sorry.
But the one thing that is a difference between the Clinton supporters and the Bernie supporters is Clinton had an entire party, an entire media establishment, an entire group of entrenched power backing her, and those people are still around and those people are still running things. With the Bernie people, all they had was Bernie and his campaign. You had some surrogates that are still prominent, but for the most part, all you had was this one guy. And so when that one guy decided that, based on, I believe, and I'd like to believe that it was based on faulty fucking advice. I mean, look at who he hired post-campaign. I listened to Ari Ravenhawk every morning for probably about a year driving to work every morning. That guy is a decent human being, but he is as centrist as it gets. And Bernie hired him to be his senior advisor right out the gate after the DNC. And it's kind of like, why are you hiring this guy when you have so many people who poured blood, sweat, and tears into organizing for you? You have so much talent that you have readily available to you that understood strategy, that understood what was going on, and understood it in a way that a sea change was happening, and most people didn't recognize that. And instead, you're still working within this corrupt system as for fear of either being Naderized in history or for fear of shattering the Democrats in general, when really you should have been shattering the Democrats. You should have been going with a hammer and saying, you're done. This old way, neoliberalism, is done. And the fact that he didn't do that has created a gigantic psychosis on the left. And I mean that in terms of the left being...
You are absolutely correct, because when you speak so Bernie has this conviction and he's speaking from this position and there's no way but this, and this is the moral authority, and there's something deeply wrong in America. When you put this shit in people's heads, and we got all the people out there that we got, and you don't give any guideposts or anything like that, so people are just running with it, right? They're building it. This is the political revolution. Everybody just needs to get up and build it, and we'll all do our own thing. And people do just that, right, for the past year in the state of this. I mean, it really is kind of it's a stupefied position that people have been in, trying to, figure out and what to gravitate towards. And there isn't any real centering force to bring folks together. People keep talking about unity or we're divided or whatever. I mean, quite honestly, we were only quote unquote united because we were all working towards Bernie Sanders getting elected. Once you remove Bernie Sanders getting elected without any type of thing to transition to, right? Because people had a really bad taste in their mouth about a lot of stuff. After the way he basically showed no real heart during the DNC. I mean, I guess we're now in a 1 year reflection later, part of the conversation now, because we are a year post DNC now. He showed no heart. He and his top staff showed. The only one who had any heart coming out of that was Nina Turner. I mean, and consistently, because even when you look at the difference in their interviews, and I know, Senator Turner respects, Senator Sanders very much, and they work very closely together. She's now president of our revolution. I appreciate the fact that she is supportive and she understands that I don't have the same opinions as her. But at the same time, Bernie, who was the leader, who people were looking to, showed no damn heart. And, he did what he had to do to save the party. It's like Lincoln. Right? I'll do whatever I have to do to save the Union, even if whether I have to free the slaves or not. And he made a Lincoln decision, and it kind of left a lot of us, feeling kind of, because I admit, even as a social media, digital organizer type person, I felt lost because I was annoyed with the push that everybody was supposed to just support Jill Stein for various reasons, even though ultimately I personally voted for her. I was annoyed that my pages were supposed to immediately just become her pages. I'm like, you all haven't, earned my vote either. Platforms are nice, but I can wipe my butt with paper. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. And so it was a very weird place to be in, and it still is a very weird place to be in for a lot of people, and it shows in the Discord.
We have no captain. We're a ship. We're going in a direction, but we're starting to break out into, rather than one ship, we're starting to break out into flotillas, and we have no fucking captain. And
I'm gonna be real.
But we don't necessarily need one, but we didn't create the organizational structure without with having no captain in mind. We created it and we worked towards it and we built it with having a captain. And then to be left without a captain and to be left without direction caused a lot of people to have some serious problems.
I don't know. I'm
Adair, what was that?
I'm saying because I like thinking about this now, especially going back here, because I think we have three really unique positions here with the organizer, Noah, with you being out there and helping cover stuff, John, and me actually being on the inside as a delegate. Like, I went through months. Of going out of my way, going out to caucuses, talking to people I don't know, running a caucus. This is my first ever time doing something like that. It was my first time showing up because it's the first presidential election.
You millennials, you overachieving millennials, I tell you.
Like, they throw me in the fire, like, hey, run this caucus. All right, fine. Voted for Bernie. Worked my ass off. I'm not, like, now it might seem weird to y'all because I do the show. I'm comfortable giving speeches in front of 400 or 500 people in Philadelphia. Then we get to that point where we're like, man, all right, cool. We're going to Philly. We're going to fight for Bernie. Raised thousands of dollars just to get there, just to go and to deal with that. And then to feel like, because for me at least, pulled out from underneath me by Bernie. I felt left. I felt betrayed. I felt hurt. When he sat there and was like, I'm just going to work with Clinton, I'm like, I'm sitting here being like physically grabbed, spit on. I'm watching friends get drug off the floor. I'm being called homophobic slurs. I'm being called ethnic slurs. I'm being targeted by police. I am afraid out of my goddamn mind right now. I watched friends get attacked by Hillary supporters on the goddamn floor. For me, that hurt.
Well, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to believe you're
like,
describing the DNC, not the RNC convention that you accidentally stumbled
right. But one thing, but just back up even to like the week before, right? Like delegates, and I remember actually it just came up in my timeline some days ago about when he made the announcement to endorse her. Because, you know, it was being rumored, and we were all doing coverage, you know, together then. And I kept saying to people on Twitter, I was like, you know, what are y'all going to do when your boy, because I was already done. But because knowing what was going on in California, knowing that there was no money set aside for, you know, African American outreach in California, knowing that they were wasting they were pulling back, they were doing more large rallies, they were not investing in ground. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. And what's really disappointing is that people all over, like you worked in, people all over the country were prepared and were ready and were just waiting for the campaign because they were so hopeful and optimistic. The campaign would come in, set up shop, not utilize the strength of the local organizing that existed. I mean, California had been organizing for a whole damn year by the time the campaign had got there, and literally didn't use any of it except for bodies to work events and stuff. I mean, it was insulting for a lot of people. And the problem is though that when it comes time to him, like there was not any understanding of a duty or accountability to the people, right? Who made it possible for him to even still be in it come May, June, July, talking about we taking it to the convention, right? It's a total level, and I know people would get really upset, like, oh my God, you're talking bad about Bernie, but no, seriously, right? Like Bernie only got as far as he did because we built up the damn effort on the ground. Because let's just be honest, in a lot of cases, the campaign sucked. Or there were some really great, I'm not going to, you know, there's some really great staffers out there, but there were a lot of issues. And when that call comes down, the delegates find out in the news that he's endorsing Hillary Clinton. Because and what's going on and how it's being reported. People are raising money. I mean, because everybody who was a delegate understands, or people who went to do coverage, that was expensive. People sleeping 6 to a room. I mean, people getting donations. You know, a lot of folks, single mom, disabled, retired, students, you know, people who are just working poor and taking off job, unpaid leave to be there, to be a part of democracy. Like, this was such a huge moment for people. So we're in post-election, we're in a watershed moment for grassroots organizing and political revolution politics. You know what I'm saying? We have a real, so Brandon was saying, I thought we would move into this new era of hope. You know, that got squashed because Bernie was not, no. I think what you're saying was right, Brandon. I may have paraphrased you wrong, but I think what you're saying was right. The problem is when you look at what happens from convention to 45's election and beyond, it has been complete misleadership and mismanagement by those who should have been natural leaders for all of us. And here we are in this very decentralized space, and it's chaos and madness, and people are trying to find a way. There's some really great groups. There's some great folks doing things locally and stuff, but that national connection, and then the large social media digital organizing space that did exist and flew with a certain harmony, it doesn't exist anymore, and that's
Right.
what people are feeling as division.
I mean,
and I agree.
I think addressed the cheating at all. Like he hasn't. Nobody on the campaign has addressed the elephant in the room, which is that. It is a divisive
but here's the thing,
issue,
if you know, okay, this is what I'm going to say though, right? I'm interrupting you. Like, if you know anything about Bernie, you know he's not going to address the cheating. You got to know that. And I think that a lot of people, and this is what I meant when I said, and I guess, and you know, you didn't miss a category. I'm sorry, you didn't misidentify my argument, Anoa, but it is just like I thought we were trying to move out of this politics that's based on celebrity, cult of personality, not based in the actual substance.
It fell right into it. It fell right into it. Yep.
It fell right into it.
Start looking at people like whether it be Bernie or Hillary or Booker or whatever as vehicles by which our political will are done, not heroes, not people to empathize with. Not the Khaleesi, not Harry Potter, not John Travolta, nothing. Like you are the will by which you are either the vehicle by which my political will is done, or you are an obstacle to my political will. Period. And and that mentality itself prevents heartbreak. Now, don't get me wrong. When I talk about Bernie Sanders supporters, I think that the cult of personality. Because his personality is not that great, right? I think the cult of personality, or rather the personal cult he developed, is.
It is if you're looking for that. He has that endearing old grandpa vibe, the earnest, and that resonates with people. I mean, as jaded as I am, he still gets me sometimes too.
And to be honest with you, I think that really drove Bernie was the platform, and the fact that nobody is, the platform was subsumed by the Democrats. And no alternative platform has been brought out or championed is problematic. I think that we could all organize in a decentralized way for a platform, but the fact that we don't have any national platform going forward that's an alternative to the crappy fucking better skills, better jobs, better wages platform is heartbreaking.
Well, let me finish my point real quick. I didn't just finish it. I guess my point was, I didn't talk for a while, so I'm going to say something now. Like, I gave you everyone a chance to go, which is nice of me. But no, and I think that I think that we can talk about the ways in which the lack of media attention, the demonization by the DNC hurt Bernie in in actual practical ways, and getting his message out there, getting votes, doing stuff like that. But it also helped craft this vision of him as this anti-establishment candidate, this anti-democrat candidate, this sort of person who's willing to buck the party and political norms in a way that he actually isn't. And so I think that sort of air of, well, he's going to do something radical at the DNC, that was that image was crafted by the blackout on him. And it blew his, it blew up the idea that he was that kind of person when really he wasn't. He never was. And that's why I say,
I think part of what it was that there was Bernie. I think he even mentioned it was that he was expecting that pressure to come from the people, basically to give him no other choice but to do so. And I don't think he had enough of a movement and had done enough to inspire people to take such radical action at that point. And I think that inhibited the ability for that to happen, though there's other factors as well. But go ahead, John.
I would disagree with you on that. He didn't do enough to foment that type of movement. I think that he did. I think that what happened post-campaign was that what little airtime that Bernie did get and what little media coverage he did get was completely ignored on a grassroots level. Draft Bernie immediately started right at the DNC, but that got no national coverage whatsoever. Nobody talked about it.
Well, I think another issue, and this is something my dad and I talked about, by the time we were ahead of the DNC. I forget when exactly we were having this conversation, but my dad and I were talking about this, in his reflections, and he was just saying there's a big difference if you're talking about really running a large scale organizing platform, social movement, revolution, and running a political campaign. And if Bernie wanted to run the type of political campaign that actually would have given birth to a political revolution, honestly, like something actual that would be lasting now, excuse me, I mean, he really would have had to treat his campaign like a for real insurgency. They were too busy trying to pay traditional DNC ball. And, you know, the rest of us were running grassroots insurgency, and it just didn't mesh. So like when he did, like you were saying, like when he did whatever he did post campaign, you know, it didn't really get picked up or resonate a certain way, but he also was too busy trying to play, you know, good guy DNC advocate.
Oh,
and,
he
and
was.
just,
I'm saying the individuals didn't get any media, didn't get any.
No, yeah, I agree. No, I agree. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, like he didn't, like you said, the misstep for the campaign where they were trying to play inside DNC ball, like that was how they thought they were going to win. In reality, what got them 43% was the grassroots.
Absolutely. I mean, how you gonna go up at the most formidable political machine in the past 50 years, at least on the Dem side, and think you're gonna, you know, we're gonna all do it equal? Like, come on, y'all. I mean, you've been in Washington. You people should have known what this was gonna be about. Did you not watch when she ran for election in 2008? Like, come on now, this was obvious. Like the writing was on the wall. They were already going all around, you know, patting the coffers and supporting candidates and stuff, and getting the endearing qualities already lined up for when they were going to run. They had the South on lock. The South was done like that on purpose so that she'd have it all locked up.
And then, you know, I understand if he was starting.
One sec, John, because I want to bring this back too, though. So we're talking about specifically what happened after the campaign, and not focus on Bernie. I want to focus on what happened to the people. In particular, I want to focus on what happened to a lot of the delegates. Because here's part of the problem with him playing that DNC ball. There's a huge divide. You have a lot of folks that went into those local Democrat parties, and the more I talk to these folks, the further away we get from it, the more you see it's just bullshit. The more you see it didn't actually do anything from actually changing a goddamn thing.
Yep.
Sure, you pick over Democratic parties, and I've extolled the virtues of that before because I thought, well, wow, I see these people in here, I see what they're doing, I'm right here on the ground with them, I'm not a part of this, but I'm watching it, and I think I'm seeing real change. But the further along you go, the less change you start to see. In fact, the more you start seeing them become more and more and more establishment. It's just a whole lot of bullshit. The rest of us either gave into our radicalization in the fullest extent, like for me, just someone that agreed with my politics as possible. And for those of you who don't know, I'm all the way at the bottom left of that map. I am way down there. I'm a hardcore leftist. I'm a hardcore establishment person. I want to tear this motherfucker down brick by brick.
I'm really not that hardcore of a leftist. I had to let somebody know. They were like, "Oh my God, the far left has so many women." I'm not even gonna pretend I'm about all that life. But I support you, bro. I support you.
I found myself further to the left down than I thought.
Yeah, I'm not as far left. I'm left. I'm not gonna say I'm not, but I'm not anarchist left.
Yeah, I'm left in like towards the middle, not as far to the anarchist as Adair.
Yeah, no, y'all don't. Yeah,
but I keep it real. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate we can break bread, we can hang out, we can get a beer, we can share pizza. But no.
I mean, I want to move a little bit back to something that you said. You know, at the beginning of the conversation, like that there is, and maybe I'm going to go a little bit further than you did, Anoa. There is nothing wrong with identifying the disaffected Trump voter, the people who voted for Trump as a middle finger to the system. Even the people who are like, you know what, let's just fuck this, we're gonna burn this motherfucker to the ground. I think that's a childish thing to do. But there's nothing wrong with identifying those people. I would even say, if I'm going to go further, there's nothing wrong with identifying the people on the alt who identify as alt-right, who are just, who have fallen through the cracks of society, or like your normal little antisocial, asocial, let's be not honest, 16 to 19-year-old white dude who is taken in by the sociality of the alt-right, like these online spaces, like their symbols, like the camaraderie, the sort of like the countercultural aspects of it, insofar that like this is the only outlet they can find. And I think that's why it's important to have spaces and media on the left that can be an appropriate space media vehicle for those people, and not let the right have dominance of that particular genre or type of engagement with the system. Because otherwise, it's important to have shows like this, the bullshit we curse, and I call John a cocksucker show, because because a lot of times it's not necessarily the content so much as it is like appealing to that internal kind of like you call it, like, dissatisfaction with the state of the world, that you know, it's random, like there's lashing out. There's nothing wrong with, you know, identifying those people, but the issue with the idea of working with not even the alt-right, because I would be, like, you know, the rank and file of the alt-right, but like the higher ups, like the race grifters that are bitch. I mean,
no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll jump in after you finish. I'll let you finish. I'm sorry.
It's like they're not disaffected. They're not even like your everyday average, like, racist white person who lives in America. What they are, they're race grifters. They're, you know, like, they're appealing to the worst aspects of the disaffected people, who they, you know, who the at-risk people. White side hetero patriarchal males can be at risk too. They're appealing to the worst aspects and their worst things, and they're manipulating all of that economic and social anxiety into a new, uglier form. There's nothing wrong with, like, you know, giving those people an alternative. And it's like, but it's not about working with them. It's about building something that can supplant what the alt-right is building. It's about building something that can serve as a legitimate critique of the system, a legitimate critique of capital, legitimate critique of the status quo of corporate media, that can entirely supplant the alt-right for those for whom it's possible to supplant the alt-right with. To create a community that they can actually exist in, like to create spaces that they can exist in, and not reach out to those on the alt-right who have these big platforms and, you know, salivate over getting some of their follows and all that other shit that people like to do. Because ultimately the alt-right, like these race grifters, Cernovich, Cassandra Fairbanks, even Richard Spencer, they don't have any power. And that's my final point. There's a difference between working with someone like Steve Scalise, who actually has power, right? And someone like Jeff Sessions, who actually has power, like, to actually get things done. Or even like your everyday average, like, Republican, slightly racist Southern school board member who has, like, you know, legislative power to get things done, and political power and political clout. And looking at someone who, you know, writes for, you know, Breitbart, and going, oh, like, their article has 300,000 hits. Like they must have power. And then, you know, you shouldn't equate attention to power. Especially not in the political system like that. That demonstrates where your priorities are at.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that a common mistake that continues to be made is that people lump in the 24 whatever percent of the population, like that whole block, right? Well, one, people keep saying we need to work with these people because, you know, they won the election. What won the election is a shitty Democratic campaign and a lot of disaffected voters, those who both voted for Trump because they were upset and those who chose not to vote for various reasons. I can't remember who it was. I want to say it might have been Zach Carter on Twitter, shared some charts, some data this morning about how felony, like the effect of felony voter disenfranchisement on the country. In Florida, 10% of the eligible voting, 10% of the population that would be eligible voters are not eligible to vote because of felony disenfranchisement. Then you couple that with other voter suppression issues, like the legal purges we're happening here in Georgia. I mean, you have a decent sized chunk of the population that isn't actually able to vote. And he pointed out the percentage of people actually in Florida who can't vote is actually I think it's equal to or more than the number of people who voted for Jill Stein. I think it's actually more, he said. So there's a lot that's going on, but a lot of people keep saying, like, well, we need to talk to these people, which is what justifies talking to the alt-right. And that's a misnomer. One, most people don't identify as quote unquote alt-right, right? Like, these people are not speaking for this large actual base of people. They hope to, which is why they want to supplant the existing power structure, because they want to be empowered then to have, you know, that greater access and stuff. But at the same time, when you actually talk, if you really want to reach disaffected voters, if you really want to reach people, you got to go talk to them, build relationships. We're not going to find folks in these silos and stuff where we're at. If we're really trying to create something that's going to, you know, be for the 99%, that doesn't happen with throwing some of us under the bus. To appeal to is actually a minute faction of a fraction, you know, of a population that voted a particular way. I mean, when you really start getting in and talking to people about some of the concerns and issues, I mean, you can't just shrug it off that somebody might have voted because they believe misinformation fed to them by Alex Jones, InfoWars, or whatever these innumerable these numerous sites that exist out there. You know, the scourge of fake news, we've all, you know, scoffed at it. It's been whatever, but at the same time, we really run the risk of jeopardizing our credibility, but also what really could still be a viable movement, you know, in a new way of engaging in politics. That's not just the same old status quo, business as usual way to go. So, I mean, we really do need to be really clear about what we're talking about. So when we want to reach people who may have been disaffected or who may have voted for Trump, or we want to reach people, and we can't forget about the 48% or whatever it was of people who sat out, who did not vote at all, right?
That's the most telling.
Those are people to be really, because why, right? Those are people, because when I talked with folks in Missouri about how they won with Bruce Frank's race, they didn't just take because, you know, they rank voters and they go for the most likely voter. And in Trump's campaign probably did something similar in terms of going after people who weren't on that traditional list. And this is smart. You go after people that have nothing to lose because they're not participating in the system anyway, because they don't think it works for them. And you go to them. I'm not saying you go there and you promise them a whole bunch of things and do the exact opposite. What I'm saying is that we build with folks, we build community. Other two things I plug in for People's Party platform process, People's Assembly type of thing, like what's happening with Nikita Oliver. I know you guys had her on. I had her on as well, you know, out in Seattle. That may not work necessarily for everyone in every case in terms of how to run for office as an independent in the way she's doing. But that process of communities coming together and drafting and deciding for themselves what the community priorities, platform, et cetera, are going to be, and then building up leadership that way. It's a bottom-up process. It helps keep us all involved, and it's a built-in accountability mechanism for the folks we're saying should be our leaders. And that's something that we can do across space, whether we're looking in urban, rural, Black, white, Asian, Latino, whatever spaces that we're talking about organizing in. This is a similar type of process that can be used across the line. And I'm really interested in seeing what folks are going to be doing from West Virginia to Ohio to Washington, down here in the South as well. I mean, they have Southern, oh shit, I missed the Southern Assembly's call that I told everyone to be on. There's a Southern Assemblies movement, which is a similar type of thing, which I'm trying to learn more about, because I think that's what we really need to start pushing people for. Okay, there really actually is this good stuff that's going on. It's in bits and pieces and in corners here and there. How do we really scale it up? I just because I'm on a email list that I didn't realize my stepdad probably added to me about, you know, imprisoned workers. I think the imprisoned workers, union, incarcerated workers organizing committee. And what it is there's a conference happening in Tennessee this weekend, a white supremacist group that is basically trying, and it seems like they have this colorblind report, and they're trying to get, they're working with ALEC, they're trying to get this prison legislation passed. So they're having their big conference, Richard Spencer and others, you know, it's a big convening happening in Tennessee. And they're going to, of course, do some teach-ins and counter protests around it. But what they're saying, what they're talking about is exactly what we've been calling attention to, is how insidious this becomes when we start normalizing it, right? We start normalizing these people and their rhetoric, and then they're connected to folks like ALEC. How are you anti-establishment if you're taking money or doing things with ALEC? Hello, like, come on, wake the fuck up, people, please. Like, y'all are being played. You're being played. You're being had. You've been hoodwinked. You've been bamboozled. Like, so I'm actually going to dig into the report that they sent out while we were, this evening. But there's a lot going on. It's more than just, oh, look, we can take down this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed lack of political education thing that's going on with a lot of people. I mean, I'm sorry when I come off condescending sometimes, but I'm real frustrated because what I think would be logical and common sense is really lost. And I think the conversation we had helps me understand better, though. A lot of people are still so raw emotionally a year later that they're just looking for somebody to love them. They really are. Like, oh, he thought I was pretty. He gave me attention. I mean, that's really the stage we're at right now.
I mean,
not to be say that,
but you gotta learn to love yourself, though. Like, and that's the point.
You do gotta learn to love yourself.
You have to learn with the, you have to learn that, there are no heroes. It's like democracy is an everyday thing. It's it starts at the personal level and it expands out. It's not like, finding someone to supplant your own, to be your, political avatar and supplant your ego. And I do want to wind the show down, so I want to start getting some final thoughts from everybody. But I do want to say, I think that you're right. Anoa, the alt-right is incredibly tiny.
Right.
No, the alt-right.
I'm joking.
Tiny. No. The alt-right is incredibly tiny, and their best quality is their ability to pretend and super inflate themselves by being hyper vocal online and getting into the minds of everybody, and also pretending as though they represent everyone who would even consider to be alt-right, that they're representative, you know, at Cernovich or whatever. Or even people like McInnes, who I guess is the alt-right, but I think that's in some ways a meaningless distinction, right? At least not a good one to be making, you know, in our spaces, because you know, they're all just grifters. But anyway, but like, and you know, we also have to stop, as long as, you know, not conflating, you know, not allowing, you know, Israel to conflate Zionism and Israel with Judaism. Also, stop letting, you know, alt-righters, white supremacists, race grifters, people who are just like, you know, purposely leading people down the, you know, average people down the wrong path, to stop conflating themselves with the 24% of people who voted for Trump, for even the entire alt-right, because there are people within those movements who, if we build the proper structures, if we build the proper spaces, they will come to them, and it's not about, you know, making concessions to them. It's about actually performing, you know, producing a credible and, you know, attractive and compelling counter narrative.
Yep.
Not, you know, not meeting them halfway, not saying, oh, well, you know, we all have the same grievance, so like, you know, we'll give you like you know, you'll give us free college, and we'll give you slavery, and we'll bring back slavery. And like, it's about saying, okay, you know what, we might have,
you know, we'll give you free college, and you help us close borders and promote free speech on campus and defund UC Berkeley.
Yeah, it's about saying, you know what?
That's literally what he tweeted out.
You know, which was fucking stupid. Like, we will build these spaces, we will build these structures, and we will siphon off your support.
Yeah,
that's it. Period. They're like, we will build policies, we will build spaces, we will build all these things, and there will be no quarter given to racists. But what we will do is we'll siphon off your support. Like we will make you defunct and extinct, or the next best thing, we'll leave you with a fraction of your population left, because you know, and the only people left will be the ones who there really is, you know, either there's no way to reach them or there's no saving, but that they not, you know, but you won't be as strong. Like, once we build proper channels, like you won't be the only game in town for these kind of people.
Yeah, but the problem is
so
they're all funded.
Last thoughts, John.
Well, I mean, the only problem I see with that is they're all funded by shady, massive millionaires and billionaires who are giving them money. So, you know,
I'm shady.
They're so anti-establishment.
I know.
So anti-establishment. Shell natives love them.
But so, you know, I'm going to leave it on the same thing that I've been leaving on. Like, this conversation actually was a better one than I've been than most of the conversation I've been having in my own life about politics and where we're going and what's happening next. And you know, keep going. I mean, I know it's incredibly depressing. I know it's incredibly depressing because I'm dealing with it. But you know, we're at a pivot point in politics in the world right now, and you can see that with not only the leftist insurgency campaigns, but you can also see it, like we said, with the far right insurgency campaigns. And we have to make a choice, and we have to make a choice of which way we're going to go. And I feel like, you know, rather than allying with Le Pen, we can go with Mélenchon. And rather than going with, you know, Theresa May, we can go with Corbyn. You know, these are the people, and these are the movements, and these are the messages that we have to adopt. And so just keep that in mind whenever we're talking in political spaces. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Adair. Last thoughts?
Fuck the woods. Fuck camping. I'm tired, and I'm trying real hard not to fall asleep on y'all right now. It was a great conversation. Big up to the big sis, but like, for real though, I don't know how y'all white people do it.
Okay.
I really don't.
I love it. I love camping, man. It's great.
I want to say I'm not white.
Okay.
Like, this shit got me fucked all the way up.
Well, I'm going in a weekend, or not this weekend, but next. So I think I'll struggle through. I'll be all right. I think I will probably be
probably
the black
dread,
person
man.
there,
You
though.
might
Anyway, sorry.
This is not bass fishing. This is the discourse.
Shut the fuck up.
It's not pro bass fishing with, I don't know.
We're just trying to appeal to a wider demographic, you know. No, I think there's some important points raised. I'm really happy Anoa joined us. it inspired me to make sure to go check her out and check out her channel and watch some more of her shows, because she was saying some of the things that I needed to hear to help with some of that depressive.
Oh, I actually don't know if I have any. I just have. I was like, I don't know if I have anything inspiring. No. Actually, that's not true. But anyway, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
But yeah, so thank you for joining us. I want to thank everybody for watching, and I know Brandon's been, like I said, busy on the SoundCloud, so that there's lots of stuff to check out there. I think he's got something lined up later tonight that he may be able to share with us, and I guess I wanted to mention about the alt-right and the narratives and the having a counter one. If we don't, we will lose that 48% of people or 44% of people that aren't engaged. They'll accept it because it'll be the only and best one out there. It'll be the best one because it's the only one that they're at least exposed to. And so it's going to take making those spaces, as I said, and it's going to take a lot of grit and determination and putting in the time and effort. And I know a lot of people were putting in a lot of time and effort during the campaign season. It's going to take that kind of effort and determination during the off seasons as well in building these movements. And so it's important to find the folks like Anoa and others that are helping to build the bridges between those of us that are watching on YouTube and those that are on the ground doing the work. And so I appreciate all that work that's being done, and I look forward to finding out more. And I'll pass it off back to Brandon.
Definitely. I'll just close this out. I was going to say I'll just close this out, with agreeing with John that like the problem creating these spaces on the left is that the Democratic Party crushes these spaces in a way that the Republican Party does not crush the spaces on the left, on the right. It's like, Democratic Party funders will crush, similar spaces to, to whatever. Oh, sorry, will crush alternative spaces to alt-right spaces, where the Republican Party will elevate them, and even like Democratic media, centrist media will elevate them, making them seem more attractive and the only source for this sort of, the only outlet for this sort of thing. But, we, like Anoa said, some people are still raw, and ultimately, it's about having, coherent movements that are both, well organized, but and similarly non-hierarchical. Don't have gods in them. Don't have, do not have people supplanting the entire ego of those movements, and as opposed to having multiple outlets and multiple power structures. But yeah, so that'll be the end for tonight. Check out the SoundCloud, and if you can, please, it helps a lot to become a patron of the Discourse. If you like the show, share it, like it. It really does help too. Leave a comment. If you stuck with us throughout the entire 2 hours, what the hell is wrong with you? But again, the Patreon link is at the bottom of the screen. Unless you're watching, unless you're listening to this on SoundCloud, then it's at the, to the right of where the the SoundCloud link is. And if you can, any amount helps. Anything from $1 to, fully funding this organization helps. Help us bring you better content. Thanks for joining us.
Brandon still sucks.
I didn't get any final words, but bye. I talked enough. Thank you guys so much for letting me join. It's okay, Brandon. It's okay.
Brandon sucks. Y'all know.
Thank you guys for letting me join. I appreciate you. It's so good. John, I'll see you next week. This is so exciting. I might need a bodyguard because I don't know if I might get assassinated. I'm literally being blamed for the downfall of the Green Party, the progressive movement, and God knows what else right now. Like, I didn't know I had so much power with my unimportant follows and my unimportant show. So it's rather me. It's amazing. How can you be the responsibility of the downfall of civilization and unimportant at the same time? It boggles my mind. But
I'm using the same argument against Jill. So
okay, take us out. Take us out.
No, but seriously though, love you guys so much. Thank you so much for joining me. This is a really great conversation. And we do have to kind of help each other be balanced because it's hard. It's hard. It's depressing. It's difficult. I mean, it's disconcerting. I'll be honest. A couple weeks ago, my mom came over to help me out. I broke down and cried because I'm like, people are so evil and so wicked. When is the mothership come to get us? Because I can't belong to this planet with these people. I have to be from someplace else. But we just gotta. I mean, the only way we'll be able to keep doing and keep striving, because this has always been a long game, is staying together. Really digging deep in reflection and making sure that we have communication and relationships to fall back on. So love you all. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so proud of you guys. Are doing so well. You guys have been on your own for almost a year now, and you're doing so well.
I mean, we've been doing this like 3 months, but okay.
You've been doing this for a year by yourself.
Cut the stream.